Yeah, I think you would. Yeah. So hopefully they know that.
We're gonna start up, folks.
Oh, hello.
Hello,
Yeah.
and welcome everyone. January 24th, 5th. Oh,
Yeah.
it's only new. I figured it out that today's the 25th. So Climate Solutions Caucus, thanks everybody for coming. Today's agenda, and of course, at the tail end, if we have time, if there are other things people want to bring up, other things that members want to bring up, we can definitely tee those up. But this morning, our Representative Rice sent out an updated priorities doc, which we also have versions here. So in some, and I'll pass them around, we did hear feedback regarding, many of you were here. Representative Williams mentioned H723, the bill focused on flood mitigation, resilience, a lot of elements related to helping the public know what type of property they might be renting or buying, that sort of thing. So we did add that here. We also recognize, though, that some of the pieces, the bill is likely to be broken up into different pieces. So it's sort of a, it's an FYI, given that it'll probably change over the course of the next 4 months. Another update is we added in H693, the bill for the transportation climate initiative for this year. And we slightly tweaked that language to reflect a little bit more what's in that bill. So thank you to everybody in transportation for being here today.
And just a note about that bill will probably get incorporated into what is transferred there. So it might have a different number.
Great. And then third, the last sort of big change is if you look at other policies of interest, there's a new bullet at the very bottom that says assessing and addressing the effect of climate change on the health of the population of Vermont. We're seeing this more and more, either the days are getting too hot, and so people are having a hard time with that level of heat, or we're seeing that power outages result in not being able to keep your fridge on for medications. We're also seeing there's a bill that's been proposed related to mental health support for folks who are really struggling with what climate change means for every component of being a human being. So we thought it was pretty critical to add that, recognizing that, if we're not healthy, that's the key start of so much of being a human being, is just being able to get up in the day. But it is pretty broad and vague and generic, because that's going to be probably a conversation piece from the new caucus that's starting up, and some of the other work that many of our members are doing. Just so I said I would let people know what the agenda items are. The other item is Senator White will talk about new leadership. Representative Rice will be going through our committee reps, and also giving some feedback on another thing that we heard from a member about bringing in more of an equity lens. And then Representative Torrey will give an update on the renewable energy standard, because there's a chance that might be voted out of House Environment and Energy before our next Climate Solutions Caucus meeting, because we rotate with the Women's Caucus. So that's 2 weeks out. So we wanted to at least give you a heads up. And then we did hear back about different ideas for future meetings, so we'll touch on that too. But to the priorities doc, wondering if there's any feedback, any thoughts, how people feel about it.
And if not, that's also fine. One note, we're going to try to get us out of here by 12:45. So.
Okay.
Go ahead, Rep. Gina.
I heard you mentioned mental health, but I see it says health.
Yes.
And I think that's important because the current the current cutting edge or whatever of healthcare is that we don't really want to be fragmenting people into health, mental health, or substance use sort of separate because we're whole beings. And all of our systems of health are interconnected. And also that what we saw with the recent climate disasters, that it had a huge mental health impact that is just beginning. And it's really, I gotta say, it's really sad to be in Montpelier and see people I met who live here and how aged they are now, how it's affected not just their mental health, but their physical health being in this environment. And that includes not just the emotional impact, but the physical impact in terms of exposure to mold and toxins that are now in the environment that have been released from it. So I mean, it's there's so much of an impact that climate change is having on health. So I do appreciate that it says just health. And I think we really need to think on every level, how it's impacting our health. And then also how does that impact affect our behavior? Because we're essentially addicted to fossil fuels. And so are we then going to be more self-destructive as humans if we feel like there's no hope? So I think that we have to think about that. So I appreciate that it's on here.
Thank you, Gina. And I would say you've made an eloquent point that I would love for you to continue to make if you want to be maybe the committee person or to support the committee person to the Climate Solutions Caucus to help bring this kind of stuff up. I don't know who, you're human services or healthcare?
I'm on healthcare now, but I think there could be more than one of us.
Yeah, so-
And Daisy and others.
Yeah, so
Let's-
over it, Bobby Furley Rubio has
Oh,
volunteered, but
yeah.
obviously the more the merrier.
Yeah.
We can have a team of people in the health.
Yeah.
Yeah, team. Okay, any other comments or we can do some exciting voting? Oh, go ahead.
Just one quick comment on the health front. I just wanted to remind folks that the Public Health Caucus that's just starting up will be meeting right in this room tomorrow at noon with lunch.
Oh.
And the goal really is to elevate public health in all the work that we do in the legislature and great partner for CSC. So hope to see you tomorrow.
Yeah, is it pizza?
No. I
Oh, it's sushi? Is it healthy?
It's definitely food, isn't it?
Yeah, okay.
That's what I heard.
That's what it's got. Okay. Oh, I'm coming. Okay, so thank you for taking the time to review that. I think we're pretty much solid on the priorities doc. So this is a great thing. We've sent it to you in your email. This is a great thing to include in a newsletter or a social media post or something that you want to utilize. Because I'm sure you're hearing from constituents generally about their fears around climate change. This is a great thing to be like, we hear you. This is where I'm at as a legislator and what I'm working towards.
And just a note on social media, this will be shared in this format to the CSC Facebook page and then in a sort of in more Instagram friendly format to the CSC Instagram account, which perhaps you don't know exists. You wouldn't blame for that. It was created last year, about a year ago, and and this will be its inaugural post. So, look out for that, follow that, and you can reshare. This will be sort of in a post with several different slides, so you can share those stories and things like that if you are active.
Yeah.
Yes, we were taking some review of how other caucuses do a slightly better job of communicating outward. So fortunately, we have Representative Rice and also outside help to essentially start to actually use that as a resource and a way to connect with our members about what we're working on. So thank you.
And that's a great segue because the next part of our agenda is to consider folks being added to the leadership team for the Climate Solutions Caucus. And the first person we're going to talk about, these are folks who have come to us and said, I'm interested. I'd like to be on it. If you are interested and you're now realizing you want to be on it, again, have a conversation with us. But these are the folks who have stepped up so far. The first person is Representative Rice. We
Never voted him in.
never voted him. We may have made a slight error in that. And he has been so kind to just continue to do the work without being officially voted in. So I'm hoping that we could, or we did it, someone made a motion to appoint.
When we were.
Yeah, when we did it. So I would happily make the motion to add Representative Rice to the leadership team of the Climate Solutions Caucus. Okay, seconded from Emily Krasnow. And then this is members who are legislators, although we do respect the members of the wider caucus, but this is a vote of members who are legislators. So all those in favor of having Representative Rice be on the Climate Solutions Caucus leadership team, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Roll call.
For you to oppose. Okay.
Man, that could have been really awkward.
Well, thank you all. And then we also have two other folks who are brand new and have not done a role yet on the Climate Solutions Caucus. The first is Representative Carrie Dolan. You probably know Representative Dolan if you've ever talked about water in the building. She's probably come and found you. But we are very fortunate that Representative Dolan has been acting in like a policy liaison role with the Climate Solutions Caucus leadership because she knows the details. She knows what she's talking about. So I don't know if you'd like to make a motion or I can make a
Sure.
motion.
I might just add, Representative Dolan no longer works for the Agency of Natural Resources, but did for like 30 plus years, particularly in wetlands. And so it's been very helpful to have her feedback and thoughts about nature-based solutions. So instead of, developing that wetland that's upstream of said town, maybe we can identify that as a nature-based solution that really can work with humanity. So brings a unique and also expert voice and role to this caucus, and we'll make sure that, I have a lot of energy background, but not necessarily that. And this is our agriculture person. And, so it's really helpful to have that additional perspective come in. So I'll make a
I think I
motion.
heard a motion. yeah.
Representative Dolan, Carrie, from Washington County area, not the other Representative Dolan, to join the Climate Solutions Caucus leadership.
Is there a second?
Second.
Great, awesome, from Representative Goldman. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, thank you, Pam.
Correction, I'm a river scientist, but
River scientist.
rivers all kind of blend together in headwaters and along the edge.
See, that's why, yeah, now you get why we need her to explain some stuff. And then last but certainly not least, we have Representative Jonathan Williams. As you have probably already become aware, his district was deeply affected by the flooding. And I think we heard loud and clear at the last meeting a very profound quote, which was that people are dying from the climate crisis and folks in Representative Williams' district. So it felt like the right moment to invite him to join the leadership caucus or the leadership of the caucus, not only for the direct impacts that the people he represents are feeling, but because he's been a champion on these issues since his election last year. So we'd love to, I'll make a motion. We would like to have Representative Jonathan Williams become a member of the Climate Solutions Caucus leadership. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, no debate.
I'll also say, he doesn't know this yet, but I think it's great that he brings expertise in grant writing. So, sorry.
Trying to get out to keep it back.
Anyway, all in favor?
Yeah, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. So yay, thank you. Thank you guys thank you for doing that. Okay, next up, we're going to talk about our reps who are in different committees.
Yeah, so I reached out to the folks who had volunteered last session to sort of serve as our liaison between your committee and this caucus. And I'll just run down that list. I've heard back from almost everyone, Representative Troiano.
Did I get that email?
Maybe not.
So this is the list of folks, and again, like Representative Tina was saying, like, we know that this caucus represents a majority of the legislature. Are a lot of people on every committee who are sort of deeply connected to this caucus, and it's going to be teams on every every committee, but this is sort of just so that we do have somebody as the caucus leadership team to sort of go to and say, hey, somebody's got a question about this thing that's before your committee. Can you chat with them? Or how's your committee looking on this thing? Obviously, it's going to be teams in every committee that are really connecting to the caucus. So just quickly, so that you do know who that person is on your committee, I'll run down that list. On the House Agriculture Committee, it's Representative Templeman. On House Relations, Representative Dolan. Ways and Means, Rep. Damrow. Commerce, Rep. Williams. Education, Rep. Austin, who's joining us on Zoom.
Hey.
On Housing in General, it's Representative Chestnut Tangerman. On Healthcare, it's Representative Farley's Rubio. On Corrections, it's Representative Troiano, as long as he has no objection here in person.
Nice.
On Human Services, Rep. Hyman. On Judiciary, Rep. Arsenault. On Energy and Environment, we have a couple of volunteers, both Rep. Satkowitz and Tori. And then on Transportation, it's Rep. Burke. And in the Senate, you are just on your own to deal
Yeah,
with.
we don't have
Senator
anybody.
Wyatt.
They didn't do this
We
homework
didn't do
item.
our job. We didn't do our job.
Nope.
So good job, House.
Chris Mike said he was sent his best.
Good.
Yes, you did, and we talked, and for some reason,
Did
you're
you?
not in my spreadsheet, but yes, on
Yeah, a lot of
GovOps,
emails.
Representative Rookie.
Do we have a total number of people who are on the caucus? It's the largest caucus, but
Yeah, it's
Like-
like 95, 93, 98. It's in that number.
Yeah, 90
It's
to 100.
large,
We have no excuse then.
which is incredibly empowering, but also, means that it can be challenging because we come from different communities that struggle with different parts of climate change in different ways. And so it is incredibly powerful, but also really important that when things do come up to you and you're like, this climate bill, I'm really concerned about A, B, or C. Like that's why recognizing that we have a whole 30 minutes once every 2 weeks. It's why it's really important to come up. Now we have more leaders that you can come up to and talk with and say, I'm worried about this. And then if one of the leadership isn't on that particular committee, we can sort of go to the committee rep and say, hey, do you have any thoughts on this? Like, what's going on in your committee that this is why you're taking this approach? So great to be so large, but also that comes with, a real need to communicate when certain things are percolating that you're like, that does not feel, I don't understand why that's happening. So.
Equity.
Yes.
Yeah, so after the last meeting, we said sort of come to us with thoughts, ideas, things that you'd like to see from the caucus this session. Representative Logan shared with me that she's on the Environment and Energy Committee. That's a committee that sees a lot of these bills that are our priority bills coming through it. And she shared that often it feels like when she's in the committee, and she starts talking about these bills through an equity lens, it's the first time it's happening. And so it would make sense, I think, for the Climate Caucus to be sort of upstream of that process. Thank you. Of that committee process and in making sure that we're looking at all the climate related bills through an equity lens. So I don't know, Kate, if you want to say any
Can I
more
add
about
one
that?
thing?
Yeah.
I just want to add one thing. Before Rep. Logan was here, there was a real focus for, I don't know how many meetings, but there were quite a few meetings that were very much focused on how to look at a bill that relates to climate change with the lens of equity. So I was digging through my emails today and I could not find it, but we should definitely bring that back. And yeah.
Yeah, Rep. Colburn hit, yeah.
So I know that we created in this caucus some kind of tool.
Yeah.
I just want to share that there's actually a tool that the Office of Racial Equity has put out. It's called an impact assessment tool. It's really complex. So I'm warning people, like if you actually do it properly, it's like 8 pages, but it's really thorough. And their suggestion is that it be applied to any bill, policy, proposal, program, anything before you finish it. And so of course, when bills are done already, we can't do that, but we can at least look back. But I'm happy to send it to the caucus leadership if you want people to look at it. It might be too complicated for some people, but I do think that if the Office of Racial Equity did the work to create a tool, that it would, you know, in the spirit of solidarity, we should like try to at least use it, at least on one bill to see what the process is like. So, all right.
It's a great, thank you. Please
Right.
send that
I'll
along
send it now
and
before I forget.
we can talk.
That was what I was gonna suggest, is that we
Oh.
use the tool from the Office of Racial Equity that they came in and to our committee and shared with us last year. And I know that the Just Transition Subcommittee had also developed an equity framework. So I don't know what tool we would specifically want to use or how we would want an equity process to go in the Climate Solutions Caucus, but it does seem like it deserves, it takes time to have those conversations. And so we might want a work group or a subcommittee, an equity subcommittee that's reviewing our proposals that we put on as priorities. Vetting them through this equity lens. And Act 154 is going to start requiring state policy proposals to be developed in a way that is compatible with principles of environmental justice that we've all been fighting for along the way over the last several years, but that doesn't, we're not required to do so as legislators, which is odd. So it'd be nice if the work that we were doing and the priorities that we had were aligned with Act 154 as well.
So Rep. Logan, if folks wanted to work with you and potentially kind of do this working group or the subcommittee, what would you recommend?
We could, I'd be happy to take a list of names and start having little meetings sometime in the next month and start talking about what we might want our process to look like. I could do it sooner rather than later if we want to really put it in place for this session and the bills that we have a lot of legislation that we're going to be trying to pass. I could use a work group right now to be talking about some of the things that we're talking about in committee. But yeah, it is a little bit late into this 2-year, biennium to be taking our initial policy proposals and kind of putting them through this kind of equity analysis. So I'm open to process suggestions on this, actually.
Yeah, well, I would just say, if based on that, if folks are interested in working with Rep. Logan, or you have a particular frame that you want to bring to this group, I think maybe finding you after the meeting or reaching out to you would be a good piece. And if for some reason you miss Rep. Logan on your way out today, feel free, we're happy to connect. But thank you so much for taking that work on, and hopefully we can get some other folks to help.
Yeah.
And I wonder,
That's something that you want to really dig into, building this capacity to do equity analysis on legislation. I would love to do it with you.
and Rep. Logan, I'm guessing or former Rep. Colburn, since I love the search function on Microsoft Outlook. That was facetious. If you have time and you wanted to connect with her to find out what the tool, because we did go through, a tool and an approach 3 years ago, I believe, if that's useful. So 2 things related, many thanks to my intern, B. Wilson, and then also your intern, Evelyn. They have offered to go through the various bills on the wall and to put them up on a tracker so that people can identify, what's in what. There are only like 25 bills with the word climate resilience in them this year. So just letting folks know that we do hope to have that shareable at some point in the future, recognizing that they're, again, if you expand it outwards, I don't know, only like 130 bills that they are going to have to skim through.
Extremely competent people, and I think they're starting to work on it on Friday.
Yeah, they've met twice on it already, so thank you. The other item, just so you know, we also ask people, what would you like to do with future meetings? One suggestion, admittedly from me, was to bring in the Climate Workforce Coalition again, maybe sometime in March. Several of those folks came in last year so that people can get a better sense of what is moving, what is not, when it relates to making sure that we have all the Vermonters to do the work that we keep putting into state law. So that's one idea. Another idea could be an equity focus, kind of like what we did 3 years ago. So that could be something tangible and specific and more near term. And also focus on public health to bring that in at some future meeting, and how that relates, maybe bring in some expert speakers about how public health is starting to bring in the impacts and the assessment approaches related to climate change. And then fourth, this is probably the funnest one.
This is the fun one.
This is hers.
Okay, I mean, you're all well and good with all your workforce and stuff, but we could have a river table here.
Oh, yeah.
We could play
I love
around with river tables, even mini river tables. And if you're not, look at the representative, look at them up there. We have the ability through these kinetic kind of play table things to show how, when water runs down, what the right strategies would be and what would happen when flooding occurs and what happens with erosion, all that. And we can bring those to the State House. So I know, isn't that cool? We can bring them to play around with at the State House.
Physical thing.
Yeah, like
Not video games.
not video games, real things
Those are
like
really
with
fun.
sand.
A bathing suit or not?
No bathing suits required. Luckily, hopefully at least the mini ones, you can just use roll up your sleeves. But the goal of that would be to have them in the Cedar Creek room. Janet Miller has said that we can reserve that for a 2-hour period and essentially run it as like a press conference.
Cool.
So folks could come, you could show your constituents. Some of them are geared more towards children. But I think we could all
We're
learn
all
something as well.
Beginners when it comes to hydrology.
Yeah, so if you're hearing anything about the river table, it should be coming soon. We're gonna try to do an event with them in the Cedar Creek room. And the goal would be to bust some of the myths in real time that people might have about how we manage flooding. Because you learn quickly, if you put something at one part of the flood table, what will happen at the bottom of the flood table. So hopefully you'll see that soon. And if you have other creative ideas like that, or you're really jazzed about it and or you are a guide for a river table, let us know. We'd love to work on. I see. Yep. And then, yeah.
There was a lot of money in the IRA that's supposed to be coming to states. I wonder if we could get a staffer from our federal delegation to come and give us an update on what's available still. Is that money flowing? When will it flow? I hear this from some constituents a lot, and
Yeah.
supposedly there was a lot of money there.
Yes.
And
There is, and that's a
great
great
point.
idea. Maybe it's the federal delegation, maybe it's public service, public service department. At a high level, the federal tax credit related items are already available. Most everything else is kind of more expected to reach states probably in June, July of this year. So then if you imagine how long it might take for the states to get it out. So we're really, yes, there is a delay, but it's several $billion that, EPA had to design all of the regs and the rules and then figure out, is this a uniform funding to every state, or is this, a competitive grant? And then a bunch of states have applied. So yes, 2 tranches, taxes currently already available, tax credits. Taxes are always available, unless you're certain people. Credits. Tax credits already available, and the secondary category is it's making its way through the process, but we're looking more like summer 2024.
Yeah. So Senator McDonald had a question, and I see Representative.
Several years ago, some folks tried to get the flood tables as part of events at state fairs.
Oh,
And you've got all the stuff at the state fairs cost money. Parents and kids messing around with their parents and grandparents on flood tables doesn't cost anything. And it's a good way to give your neighbors a chance to learn something that you're not telling them, but that they're learning themselves. And I don't know if this caucus would
Oh,
put together a system of who might volunteer at different state fairs. If we could get some flood tables to go to the state fairs and allow some teaching to take place.
Senator McDonald, I love that idea. I also think that we should talk through, let's see how we feel with them when we try them out on our own. But if you love them and you want to bring one to your district, I'm happy to work with folks because it's a resource that is available throughout the state. So that's a great point. Representative Burke.
I was just going to say that we could perhaps get people from the climate office to come and talk about the federal funding. We've been getting information in transportation about the carbon reduction strategy, et cetera. And so from the Agency of Transportation too. But it would be good to also have somebody who had the whole comprehensive vision of this situation.
I think that's, and I even thought to myself, the National Caucus of Environmental Legislators, I had done an online presentation that they had done
They did.
broadly.
Yep, we could ask them.
So we can share out that presentation at the very least. That's already baked. But for Vermont specific stuff, yeah, we should get, it would be great to get the climate office.
They might
or-
have that too. NCEL might have that.
Yeah, okay.
One more comment, and then we do have one more item from Rep.
My
Torrey.
comment is fast. I was just thinking about state fairs, but in my town, it's 4th of July.
Oh.
So it might be fun to spread around the state on 4th of July parades and have little stations.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, events.
I could do that, Saxons River.
Okay.
So last on the agenda, Rep. Torrey is going to give a quick high-level update. This is all within a big caveat of House E&E is still taking testimony. We are still talking about this res bill. So it's not like we voted on it, but we wanted to give you an FYI because if we voted out of committee in the next 2 weeks, we will not have had a chance to do that.
Yeah, yes, we circulated some highlights of the Renewable Energy Standard Bill that were put together by the Renewable Energy Vermont. And just a huge thanks to a lot of the partners in this room who have worked hard. The working group that met over the summer was very successful in coming together on how to get us to 100%. By mostly 2030, but there's a lot of flexibility built into this bill to account for the fact that we have utilities of different capacities, different sizes. And it's, got some new definitions that are going to make more new renewables come online and do so faster. There's been a lot of attention to affordability as that's a huge important thing. So there was some studies done on potential cost impacts for ratepayers. And, a lot of exciting things are going to come out of this. Really key to get this passed and get us on track. Really builds nicely with what we did last year with the Affordable Heat Act and all of our progress on electrification. So this is going to make sure that we're dealing with the cleanest pot and that our grid is really able to accommodate what we've got coming. So we still have some great testimony coming up in our committee, including from the transmission folks, the Public Utilities Commission, and really hoping to get this out. And any questions that you have, please see me, Rep. Stebbins, Rep. Logan. We're all working hard on this and are really excited about the progress.
And there are also advocates in the room. If you want a little bit more of a detailed update, remember they are advocates, so good to
Yeah.
remember their perspective. It is H Bill 289, in case you want to look at what the most recent version is with a bunch of yellow highlights. One sec. Yes,
Is there a summary of the bill that you guys can share?
there's a highlight right
Just
now.
started to go back around, I got stuck here.
And the summary of the bill is also on the House E&E website. Under today, under Ben Edgerly Walsh. Rep.
One thing, I think when you see the bill, there are a whole bunch of provisions, very specific ones that I think may be of interest in that they attempt to address or recognize efforts that some utilities have made long before, years before, any kind of legislation was being considered around renewable energy, including a contract that I developed and negotiated in 2010 that suddenly popped up in front of my face again. But there are some utilities that are already 100% renewable, so they should be treated somewhat differently than utilities that aren't there yet. And so it's an interesting history or recent history of efforts in Vermont, both at the legislative level and at the individual utility level.
It is 12:47.
Thank you so much. We're available. Send an email, find us if you have questions, comments, thoughts.
Thank you, Mike, Jonathan, and Carrie. Woo!